Hello from the MashpeeTV Channel 99 studio. I'm Chris Boyd, a Mashpee resident and business owner. I'll be the moderator of today's MashpeeTV 2017 Board of Selectmen Candidates Forum. Joining me as a co-moderator is Sam Houghton from the Mashpee Enterprise. This forum is an opportunity for the candidates to speak to Mashpee voters. The questions I'll be asking were submitted by community members, including parents, students, the news media, civic leaders, and other interested citizens of Mashpee. From all of the questions submitted, we have selected those that best cover the range of issues that will be facing members of the Board of Selectmen, and those that will allow voters to better know the candidates seeking to serve as our selectmen. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes to address each question, as well as a 1-minute response to any follow-up questions the moderator may present to further clarify a candidate's response. Each candidate will also have 3 minutes for a closing statement. The candidate's position on the stage and the order in which they will be addressed was determined through random selection. The candidates have been provided the rules prior to this forum. We'll get to the first question shortly, but first, let's meet the candidates. Andrew Gottlieb, John Cahalane, Shane Clark, and Chris Avis. Thank you all for being here. Each candidate has 2 minutes for their opening statement. The candidate's order was chosen at random earlier, so Andrew Gottlieb, will begin with you.
Thank you, and thank you to MTV for hosting the event. I'm here tonight to ask the Mashpee voters to give me the honor of re-electing me to the Board of Selectmen. My service to the community dates back to the late 1980s when I first served the town as a twice elected selectman. I came back and you gave me the honor of allowing me to serve the community 3 years ago. When I came to you last time asking you for your votes, I promised several things. First and foremost, I promised to do my homework, to understand the issues that were in front of us, to be fair and impartial, and yet also demanding of those coming before us to make sure that I understood and the Board of Selectmen understood and the public understood the issues we were being asked to decide and how those might impact the community. I feel as though I've done a good job being inquisitive, being thoughtful, holding people's feet to the fire, and standing up for the things that I believe in as being what's best for the town. I think that in this time, you look at how the town has performed over the last 3 years. I think we've improved our performance financially. I believe we've improved our performance operationally as a management entity. I think I've played a strong role in helping to shape those improvements and made Mashpee town government more responsive and better, and I'd like the opportunity to continue to do so.
Thank you, Andrew. Now we'll hear the opening statement from John Cahalane.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank MashpeeTV for this chance for us to let everyone know what our views are. In 1972, I came to Mashpee with my wife, God rest her soul, and we opened up a restaurant nightclub called The Farm on Route 151, Mashpee. About 10 years later, we sold it, but one thing we did find out is that we fell in love with the town of Mashpee and plan to stay here for our entire life. After that, I eventually became president of Diversified Resorts, a company that had resorts up and down the East Coast. We had 18 of them. My wife opened up Cape Cod Toys in Mashpee Commons, which she was the owner and operator of for well over 20 years. We really have made our roots in the town of Mashpee. 17 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be elected to the Board of Selectmen. And I have taken great time to make sure that I have a chance to interact with the people of Mashpee by going to as many social, town, charitable events, a chance to talk to people and find out just how they feel on issues, and know how I should react to votes in the town of Mashpee. The ability to find out what the importance is probably as important as anything else, what the people want. I'm also, my phone is available 24/7. I will stop to talk to anyone in town about issues or problems if I don't know the answer. I will find out the answer and get back to them as soon as I can. Mashpee is currently the home of 14,000 people, doubling that in the summer. It has a very, very strong financial status. Its town services are probably the best, if not better than anyone else in Cape Cod. And we also have a tremendous, tremendous working staff, and we have a tremendous volunteer staff that even makes Mashpee better. I truly believe in the cliche. If it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Try to make it better. In the next hour, you'll be hearing exactly how we feel on different issues. And at the end of that time, I hope you people will consider re-electing me to the Town of Mashpee Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Shane, your opening statement. Shane Clark.
Thank you to MashpeeTV as well, Chris and Sam, for being here. Thank you for having me tonight and allowing me to speak to the voters and residents of Mashpee. I moved here in 1983 when my family moved here in 1983 when I was 8 years old. As important as it is for the voters to know my experience and my background, I think it's just as important for them to understand the dedication and the love that I have for this town of Mashpee. In October 2016, there was a discussion regarding the privatization of EMS in the town of Mashpee. Recently, there was discussions amongst the Board of Selectmen about withdrawal from the Cape Cod Tech. You know, my father is a retired military veteran and instilled in me as a youth the sense of community and, more importantly, a deep appreciation for this great form of government. It is these issues, amongst other issues that I've heard from, amongst the residents of Mashpee and lessons passed down to me that sparked my interest in becoming selectman for the town of Mashpee. I've dedicated my entire life to public service. For over 20 years, I have dedicated myself to the protection of life and property. It is the same strong dedication, the love of the town of Mashpee and its residents that I will bring to the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final opening statement is from Christopher Avis.
Sure, Chris, Sam, thanks for having us today. I'd like to start off by saying, so 20 years ago we purchased a house here and raised our family of 2 kids. Currently we have, our daughter is 20 years old, she's in college. My son is a junior in high school. And it's been a great time. Prior to that, I was up in college for 4 years, and then high school off Cape. But many of you may or may not know that I actually attended elementary school in the current town hall, Samuel G. Davis. So my roots go way, way, way back. Summer down here in Pompanesett with my folks, and I look to see Mashpee continue with the great playground that it is, and natural resources, and everything that I grew up, including the schools and so forth. I was elected, if you can imagine that, 10 years ago, when the charter prior to that actually had to be elected to the Finance Committee. And I won that seat. Granted, it was unopposed, but I won and got in and really started to dig deep and learn a lot about the politics and how town and municipal governments run. I'm from the private sector, so it's a lot different. And what I learned is that this town is very well run. And I think over the course of 10 years, we've gone through recessions. We had to tighten our belts. But all the way through, we've sort of maintained sort of the services that John referred to as being some of the best. Our schools, I think, are some of the best. I think they can get better. I think we need to invest in that. I think we have infrastructure that we need to invest in, certainly wastewater issues, certainly looking at our, general sort of population and making sure that we're asking the appropriate questions. That's part of the reason why I'm running for selectman is I feel as though that the time is right in my life. I feel as though that the experience that has afforded me for the 10 years on the finance committee, and I think we've done a wonderful job at advising the voters. I would like to ask questions. I want to start a conversation with the voters. I want to be more, not that we're not transparent today, but really get people involved into it. We sit at town meeting with 100 or 200 voters and wonder if it's apathy or if it's the town is overrun. And I guess what I don't quite understand today is with the internet and the social media, we should really be able to get more people to start a conversation and talk to us about how they feel as though things should be run. That's why I'm running for selectman.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to the questions, and the first is directed to John. The Community Preservation Committee is considering recommending spending over $200,000 to build pickleball courts on the site of the community gardens. This does not include the cost for managing nor maintaining the courts. Considering the town's projected fiscal difficulties, there are questions as to whether this is fiscally responsible expense. Do you favor the proposal?
I do favor the proposal, especially where it's coming out of the fund it is. That fund is not money that can be spent on operational expenses. It's was voted in as a fund to do the extras that will make life in Mashpee nicer to live with, what a lot of land with it. We've done historical stuff with it. We've done some affordable housing with it, and that's what the purpose is. Pickleball evidently seems to be, even though I didn't even know what it was until a year ago, seems to be very popular right now. And the thing that's intriguing about it seems to be popular in an age group of probably 30 through 60, which we really don't have a lot of physical activities for. I am in favor of it, and I think it'd be another asset to the town. Just like I was very hesitant of the water park for the little kids, and now I see that it's just tremendously occupied and used. So yes, I am in favor of it.
Shane, do you favor this proposal?
I'm in favor of the proposal. I'm in favor of the pickleball courts. I don't know that I'm in favor of the location. I thought that, Heritage Park would be a more conductive area for it, and I'm not in favor of taking this piece of land where the gardens are and paving it over with some pickleball courts. I think the pickleball courts are important. I think they'll be used. I just don't know that that's in my mind, I don't know that that's the right location for it.
Chris, do you favor the proposal?
I do, except I think we need to really look at the CPA, and I think, we're sort of run its course. I've asked on the finance, on the finance team as to looking at the CPA and actually, maybe coming up with a hybrid model. I think we're getting to the point where, certainly as John said, the splash park, I wasn't in favor of that at the very beginning. However, I do see the interaction with that. I think the pickleball courts is a great idea. I just wonder if we're sort of starting to somewhat run out of projects to legitimize where that's gone. If you know, that originally was a fund that started, it was 100% match from the state. It's trickled down to about 23%. And it's my understanding that the city of Boston now is going to be getting into that CPA fund as well. So that's really going to dwindle sort of the funding that we have. My concern is that I believe it's in 2020 something that we need to sort of make a decision whether or not we're going to stick with it or not. My feeling is I think we can actually make a hybrid out of it, maybe go down to 1.5%, still keep some of these projects alive, but yet necessarily reduce the burden on the taxpayer, because I do feel as though we've done a lot in this town, and especially with affordable housing and those types of things. I think we really need to look at it. But overall answer to your question, Chris, absolutely, I think it's a good idea.
Andrew, do you favor the proposal?
I do. When I was on the board, my first summer on the board, I helped lead a discussion about policies and priorities and objectives to guide some of the decisions we make on the operational side. One of the things that we ultimately agreed upon as a group was that investing in our public lands, our public facilities, and the amenities are one of the things that we can do to achieve a multitude of objectives. We provide recreational opportunities for people. It gets them out into the natural environment. They value the natural environment more. They're more likely to appreciate and protect what they know and are familiar with. There's health benefits, recreational benefits, people being able to get out and use our public lands. Not all of our public lands need to be or should be or are woodlands. There are other interests that people have that go beyond a walk in the woods or a walk on the beach. Creating amenities like the water park, like the pickleball court, is a way to broaden people's opportunity to enjoy the things that they tend to value and what makes Mashpee an attractive place to live. So I think while we have availability of those funds, these are really good ways to use them. I think to get back to part of your question in terms of the long-term operation and maintenance, and one of the reasons that we're looking at repurposing the land where the community gardens are is that for years, up until last year actually, none of them were used. We had a handful of them used this year. They're going to be accommodated by being redesigned and replaced around the pickleball court. So those people that have used the community gardens, I believe, still continue to be able to access community gardens on that site, just taking multiple uses and putting them together in a way that works. And then secondly, we're already spending money keeping the community gardens from becoming an eyesore. The concept behind it was that the people who rent it will keep them clean. Because they haven't been rented and used, DPW's been doing it. So I don't think there's going to be much of a cost impact because we're just taking the time that they were spending doing the weeding and the landscaping there, maintaining the courts. So I think it's a good use of the funds and will provide an opportunity that doesn't currently exist in town for our residents.
I'm going to turn to financial issues. A recent long-term financial plan projects a potential shortfall for sustaining level services by 2021. First, to you, Shane, do you believe in maintaining current municipal levels? If so, how do you propose to cover the cost? And how does the town balance taxes, revenues, and services moving forward?
Thank you for the question. As far as I do believe in maintaining municipal services where they're at. You know, whether they're public safety or the teachers. I understand that this is a difficult decision that needs to be made. You know, we're going to have to come to a balance between the discussion of potentially raising taxes or making cuts somewhere. You know, this has been very, but I don't believe that putting the public's safety at risk or putting our children's educations at risk is where we should be making the cuts. There's ways to make cuts. There's other innovative ways to look into the budget to try and eliminate some of these cuts to move forward. I know one of the articles in the warrant is to put aside $500,000 for future capital expenses, which is important. You know, we've learned from the Quashnet School Window Project that, you know, it's gone from $1 million, you know, $350,000 responsible to the taxpayers to a $15 million project where now the taxpayers are responsible for $5 million. So we need to learn a lesson from this plan moving forward and make sure that we have money set aside for the capital improvements. You know, we know what the capital improvements are needed, but I don't believe that we should be cutting public services. That's what the taxpayers are paying taxes for, so that their children are well educated, that their homes are protected, and that, you know, they themselves are protected.
Chris, do you believe in maintaining current municipal services, and how do you propose to cover the cost, if so?
So it's an interesting question, and thank you, because I was the one who actually asked for a 10 and 5-year projection from the last administration, Joyce and her team, and unfortunately never really got the answer. And in the 10 years I've been looking for sort of a projection as to where we are, where we've been, and where are we going. The current administration was gracious enough to get their financial team behind it, and Don did a great presentation. And you're correct, in 2021, there's a fiscal cliff. Throughout the years, we, I think, in this town have been financially conservative in the fact that we've never had to institute a Proposition 2.5 override. With that being said, you know, we came out of the recession in very, very strong financial shape. You know, Joyce did an extremely good job of getting us to a AAA bond rating, but I think that was due in part by all the department heads, the selectmen at the time, I think us on the finance committee, looking at the budget, tightening down the ropes, really not, I think, compromising services and, you know, in schools and so forth. You know, we came through very well. What we need to do, though, is currently stop the 2.5% growth. Year over year, the trend for 5 years has been 2.5 to 2.7%. That needs to change. We're lucky this year in this budget that the voters will be approving this year is that the high school came off, which is about almost a $1.9 million debt that now has been, for the most part, paid. So you'll see in the warrant that the Finance Committee projects that the tax rate will actually go from $9.11 to $9.06. The budget, for the most part, is only going to be increasing by a 0.1, I think it's 0.1 something percent. So we're tightening our belts. I think we're not, you know, we don't necessarily have a revenue issue. We have a little bit of a spending problem. And I think by the schools were excellent this year in really coming down with a flat to 0% budget. I think they're only up about $38,000 to $40,000 year over year. So that was huge. They're at the table willing to listen, and you know, I will say the department heads and so forth, you know, have taken some cuts and so forth. So I think we have to stop that 2.5 limit, but I still think we can provide the services that Mashpee expects and deserves.
Andrew, do you believe in maintaining current municipal services, and how do we, if so, how do we cover the costs?
I do. My approach to budgeting and financial management is this. I believe that not even before you contemplate asking the voters for more, we have to have the ability as selectmen, it's our job to look each one of our voters in the eye and tell them that we feel that we can justify the funds that they're giving us are being well spent. How do you do that? I think two ways. One is you need to be willing to do the hard work to look at what the long-term financial picture of the town is. I started that discussion with our financial team initially around the capital side because of my interest in trying to figure out how we're going to manage the wastewater issue. It very rapidly became clear that we needed an operating side assessment as well to understand where our costs are coming from and what our opportunities to control them are. As you've heard from other speakers, the analysis revealed that we have a potential problem, and I stress potential problem, in 2021. We have a problem if we do nothing. And what you've seen from this board in the last year or two with the new manager is the willingness to look at how we do things, what we do, where we invest our money, because we can manage to maintain our service levels at 2021 if we start now, and we have started now. Part of my approach to that, and you know, it's been alluded to a little bit, I think you need to be able and willing to ask questions about each and every department, about the fundamental way that we offer services. I'm not talking about if we offer the service, I'm talking about understanding whether we are offering the service in the most efficient, cost-effective, and responsive way possible. And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, then we have an obligation to change it. So what does that mean from me? What has that meant for me in my service on the board? It means sometimes I ask questions that make people uncomfortable. And I'll make people uncomfortable, not for laughs or for fun, but because I don't believe in the assumption that just because we've been doing something a certain way means that it's the best way, the only way, or the way we should continue. So on my time on the board, I have asked hard questions about our operations to get underneath what we're doing, why we're doing it, so that I can look you in the eye when I come back and ask for your vote to say that I'm confident that we know that we're giving you the best service. I think we can manage our way through the fiscal challenges that we have, and that we'll be fine.
John, same question to you. Do you believe we can should maintain current municipal services, and if so, how do we cover it?
Yes, I definitely do, and Andy has gone through quite a few of the ways that we can do it. The nice thing is that we're aware of it, so we have time, and we've already started taking steps to it. They are just projections, and I've seen projections go both ways. There's a potential of new growth being higher than it is. As you see, there's a lot of growth starting now at the new assisted living. We don't know how much more Mashpee Common's going to do. So there's a potential of new growth, and that's always, this town's been bailed out by it quite a few times. The day that it stops having new growth is the day we'll have a problem. There's other things too that could be come down the line. We have, earlier we were talking about CPA and the things that we've done with it and everything else. We might have to decide that the priorities have changed, that's kind of a luxury items that we're doing, and take that 3%, which is already a surtax we're paying, and put it towards our regular. Even if it would be a case of, you would probably have to call an over a 2.5 override, but it wouldn't cost anyone any money because they're not paying that 3% for the CPA. That's just one way. One of the other potential ways we might be coming out of it, which is a lot of debate on now, is the marijuana taxes. Could be a windfall if the town decided to have it. So what's nice about it is we're aware of it, we're trying to take care of it, and I think we'll be in good shape by the time that it comes.
Okay, thanks. Sam has a question for Chris Avis. Sam?
Yeah, just going off of that discussion we just had, you said the town has a spending problem, but I think if you look to the near future, the town might have to spend money on the new Cape Tech school, and we're not even talking sewering. So something, I think the point is something's got to give. Can you give us specifics where the town could give a little?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sam. The problem with me giving a very specific answer to you, I mean, I'm not in the position today to say I think we would take X from here and put towards Y and go down those routes. But what I do feel is, though, that, we knew about the tech school for many years, that this building was coming and the expense of the building was coming. We also knew that we were going to have issues with certainly the Quashnet School, and I think we're going to have issues with the Coombs School as well coming down the road. I think there's going to be windows and a roof priority. And so these capital expenditures are not new to the current administration. We may not have known at the time that they were as large as they are. Another speaker mentioned about the sewering project. That's another huge sort of, expense. We also have the unfunded liability, which is something that, we need to be putting something away. And, Joyce started a fund, and now we're actually utilizing in this this budget. We're putting some money towards that as well. I would be remiss to stand up here and say that every department needs to take a 10% reduction in order to fund, the Cape Tech School and so forth. But I guess what I would say, though, is, my platform is basically asking the questions. And the questions I feel as though that haven't been answered or at least asked are, very high level. If the town of Mashpee has school choice where a student can go to any school he wants to, well, why can't a Cape Tech enrollee decide on what school he can go to? Why is it specific that they have to go to a certain school? There was certainly the current administration brought up the fact that, they wanted to pull out of Cape Tech. Well, I don't necessarily believe in that theory, but certainly it's a question that certainly is raised as to, is there a reason why we're there? What's the historical facts? I honestly don't know, and certainly talking around town, I don't get the response back that I think many townspeople do know. I think it was a very reactionary sort of, plan to pull out, and now we're back in. So it's a good question, Sam. I can't give you the numbers, to say how we're going to fund it. I can say this, that the inside 2.5, that
if the voters approve the $6.5 million for the Quashnet School windows, will not take a major bite into the taxpayers' tax rate. Which I noted before, that rate actually is going to be going down to $9.06. So, you know, when the Cape Tech School comes up to a vote, and whether we decide to get in or not, I don't assume we will, at our $18 million share, there's financial ways in which I think that we can cross that bridge without burdening the taxpayers to the point where, you know, Mashpee becomes a very difficult place for their seniors and, you know, working class to pay the bill.
This leads actually right into the next question I was going to ask all of you, which I'll come back to you on this, Chris, too.
Sure.
But if I could, Andrew, getting into a little more detail, Mashpee is a long-term member of the Cape Cod Regional Technical School in Harwich, and currently over 50 students from Mashpee attend the school. The Regional School Committee is proposing the construction of a new facility at a cost of $140 million. Mashpee's share is estimated at $18 million over 30 years, which equates to about $600,000 per year, or an increase on the tax rate of 12 cents per thousand evaluation. A debt exclusion election is to be held in October. Will you encourage voters to support this debt exclusion?
Well, actually, what's going to happen, you know, I'm actually very happy to talk about Tech School. Tech School came to us this past winter and presented, the superintendent presented the prospect of a $140 million new building. And the feedback he got with unanimity from the board was a feeling that that capital cost was too much. There was the thought that they were going to go back, take that feedback, and see what they could do in evaluating the options that they had, both from rebuild to new school. Came back a couple months later, and they had chosen the most expensive option of the 7 or 8 that they had in front of them. I had done my research at that point coming in and found out that on the operational side, Cape Tech is the third highest per pupil cost of any technical school in Massachusetts. It costs $7,000 or $8,000 more per year to send a Mashpee student to Cape Tech than it does to send them through our own school system. It costs several $1,000s more for Mashpee to send a kid to Cape Tech than it would cost a family or a town of Sandwich or Falmouth or Bourne to send a child to, that same child to Upper Cape Tech in Bourne. And so I started a conversation at our meeting with the superintendent about why it was that their cost basis was so high, and whether on its face the cost of educating a child from Mashpee per student should exceed $35,000, which is more than it cost me to send either of my children to college this year, where they are housed and fed for 9 months. And I didn't like the answers I got. I didn't like the answers I got, not because I don't value technical education, not because I don't value the opportunity and hold harmless the notion that we should be able to provide a sound technical education to any child in Mashpee who wants to go there. But if it's not affordable, then it's not real. And yes, I put out on the table the question of whether the town should evaluate its ongoing participation in that district. It is appealing to me, it was appealing to me to go to Upper Cape Tech. It's closer, it's cheaper, it's better in many respects because it's a newer facility. We held hearings. We had a lot of people come in who reacted very strongly to it, who reacted to the notion, fanned, I believe, by the superintendent from the district, that we were against providing public, and I in particular was against providing public access to technical education. Nothing's further from the truth. What I wanted was to have the discussion. Again, I'll go back to what I said before. Do I have the ability right now to say that I am comfortable with a $141 million investment in that building the way it's designed as of what I know right now? No, I'm not. They're going to come back with a final figure that will go to the town meeting or the town election in October, a special election, and we'll have a smaller, I expect a somewhat smaller figure there. At that point, once I see what the final proposal is, I'll be in a position to say whether I support that particular proposal. But I'll tell you something. It was not a simple thing to raise that question. The reaction and the overblown reaction to asking the question is the type of reaction that discourages public officials from being willing to ask hard questions so that we can go back to voters. I've done it before, I'll continue to do it. I support technical education for Mashpee kids, and we will find a way, but I want to be able to feel good about it once we send the money.
Thanks, John. Will you encourage voters to support the debt exclusion in October?
Or the technical school?
Yes, exactly.
At this point, yes, I will. Everything Andy said is true. I love the idea of exploring other ways to educate kids in the technology field. Upper Cape, it happened long before I was involved with town or anything else. Why we're not in Upper Cape, I'll never know. But I would not want to do anything that just leaves us out, that the kids have no technical schools to go to. And that's the only reason I'd support it.
Shane, will you?
I do support the technical school. It's my understanding that in 73 and 1974, Janice Mills was the chairman of the school committee at the time. She recognized the need for vocational education in the town of Mashpee. She went to Upper Cape Tech and Bourne, and that was the initial proposal, was to try and get our children into that school for obvious reasons. It's a lot closer to Harwich. They wouldn't allow it. Didn't have room for us. Wouldn't allow us to join their program. So we in turn joined the Cape Cod Tech in Harwich. I absolutely support the vocational school. I agree with Andrew. It's a ton of money. I think it needs to be looked at. You know, if we can lower some costs, then we need to lower costs. It goes back to that discussion we had earlier with capital expenses and how we can tighten our belt. It is going to cost a lot more money to send a child to a vocational school than it is to Mashpee Public School. There are more not more opportunities, but more obviously vocational opportunities. They have a full auto shop there. They have a full auto body shop there. They have a marine shop there. So these are going to cost more money. So yeah, if we can lower the cost, that's great. But I absolutely would support the warrant for Cape Cod Tech.
I just want to give, actually, I do want to give Chris an opportunity just to comment on this as well. Will you encourage voters to support the debt exclusion?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Unfortunately, I don't know enough at the time to be able to, because again, I've met with Sanborn, who's the superintendent of the Cape Tech, and to the speaker's comments is that we haven't got the final figure. That $18 million could change. I do think that the school that they're building is a little excessive, and I think there's still opportunity for discussions. Unfortunately, I don't think we're asking those questions. Another crazy idea is to have a forum, right, and to sort of bring in some families and ask them, what do they think of Cape Tech? I certainly know of friends of mine who've sent their kids there. The sports programs are decent, but the problem is they're traveling all the way to Harwich. First thing in the morning going down Suicide Alley, with the, my son got his license when he was a sophomore and so forth, is just, it's a long way. I think we need to be asking questions. And one of the questions, I sort of threw out there for no other reason than just to see what type of response we get is, with 18 million, we also spend about $1 million a year to send 54 kids, 56 kids there. So let's just take $19 million. Is it possible for us to take that amount of money and invest it into a program where we sort of develop our own sort of Cape Tech school, Mashpee Tech? I mean, I have never heard anybody discuss anything like that. And we're looking at 18 to, call it $19 million. Is that viable? Is it possible? I just haven't heard a discussion. It just seems as though we're being led down a path. So I can't answer that question right now, Chris, only because I just don't know the final figure. And I don't think we've answered enough questions or asked enough questions to come up with a solid sort of answer to bring to the voters and to say, this is what we've done for our homework. These are the plans that we've outlined. We've come up with some different ideas. We can't go to Upper Cape because of X, Y, and Z. We've spoken to, Beacon Hill, and these are the reasons why. We can't go to Plymouth Tech because, maybe Plymouth Tech is actually closer than Harwich. I don't know. You know what I mean? So these are the questions I'm not sure we've asked as of yet. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Sam has a question for Andrew.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an opportunity. There, it would seem to suggest that you might withdraw from the Cape Tech if there was no alternative. I just wanted to make that clear if you would, or would.
No, I raised that as a possibility in part to get the attention of the administration. But, you know, the entire board voted unanimously to not pursue that withdrawal. And I'm not pursuing it individually.
I think, Sam, you also had a question, another follow-up.
Oh, yes. This is a question for you, Andrew. A couple months ago, you were vocal about privatizing ambulance services to the town. Are you still in that belief? You know, why should the town not or pursue that?
I'll frame it the same way I framed most of my answers today. I'm interested in asking the question. If you have a financial plan, one of the elements of that long-term financial plan is to understand what's driving your costs. And you fish where the fish are. And so you go to those buckets of money and expenditures that are significant and examine how you're using them to make a decision about the efficacy of how you're spending the money. The ambulance service, the fire service is an area where I ask the question, is there another service model? What would it cost? And because cost is not the only thing that you use in determining what is the best service for the community, I was hoping to have a discussion about what's the cost piece and what are the pros and cons, to get information so we could make an informed decision about the best way forward and whether that's a place to look or not to look as we move forward in trying to manage our plan. So again, yeah, I took some heat for raising the question. I would raise the question again. I haven't gotten an answer to my question either, so I don't know. But if you're unwilling to look across the board, if certain activities, departments, unions are not fair game for whatever reason to be looked at, then I don't think we're managing the operation. You wouldn't run a business that way. You would not have a division of your business where you'd say, we're never even going to look at them. Because if we never even look at them, we can't ever make it better. We can't solve problems. We can't identify a better way to meet the service needs of the community that might work out better for the employees as well. So did I take some heat for raising the question? Yes, I did. Am I pleased, happy to have asked the question? Yes, I am. Am I going to ask questions like that for other departments as we go through the process of trying to figure out how we're going to manage the people's resources as effectively as we possibly can? I sure am. And I'm not going to stay away from or take my direction from the town employees, the unions that represent them, or anyone other than the people who elected us, put us in this position, and gave us a responsibility to do what we thought best for their public dollars. And without asking questions, you're flying blind.
I'm going to lighten the topic and change it to trash. And by luck of the draw, you're next in the order, Andrew.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I am. The sticker fee for the town transfer station will increase again in July.
Yep.
But revenue from fees still do not cover the cost for solid waste disposal. And the shortfall is covered from general tax revenue. What is your position or plan to address this issue, including the possible implementation of pay-as-you-throw system or higher sticker fees?
Sure. I'm glad you asked. You know, the issue of trash disposal has been an ongoing, and perhaps I would make the point, I would probably make the assertion that the most contentious issue among the Board of Selectmen over my period of time on in this last term. You know, we had the pay-as-you-throw debate, we had the leave it exactly as it is debate, and I think where we have landed is moving towards, on an incremental basis, and this year's fee increase reflects that approach, whereby we would look to recover over a period of years the cost of operating the transfer station primarily from fees. And that the general tax rate subsidy would go away over time with some small increment to cover the town's use of the facility for its own purposes. But that we are moving toward a system where the sticker fees more fully cover the cost of operation. That doesn't mean that we're moving towards a change in the operation of the facility. So to the extent that you know, the community seems to be roughly evenly split in my mind between keep it as it is or move to a per bag fee. We're not moving the per bag fee direction. but we are moving towards having it be more fully supported by the users. We've made some operational changes that were intended this year. They were intended to address some of the perceived abuses of people using residential stickers to collect neighborhood trash, or commercial operations using residential stickers and not paying their fair share through the appropriate sticker fee. We're evaluating how that's happened and how that's worked. But we are moving what I think is in a right direction, and taking trash off the front burner as a hot button issue in town.
John, what's your position on the trash issue and pay as you throw, or higher sticker fees?
Well, I'll tell you what, it seems like this has been forever. I think we finally have it. Matter of fact, we won't know until next year. I think potentially at the end of this year we will be at a cost neutral. I say that only because our DPW's director's figures thinks it's going to cost 12 or 14%. Her figures in the past have always been that the town spends 25%, but if you look at historically for the last 3 or 4 years, it's only been 15%. So we might be close to there. Even if it isn't there, it's so close. By next year, we're just a few tweaks. We're there, whereas it's at that point, we probably will have to decide whether or not we want to make it a whole separate entity or not.
And how about you, Shane? Subject to trash.
So the trash subject. Yeah, this is, as the two gentlemen said, this is a topic that's been up for a while. It's gone to the voters on the ballot. It's been at the past forums. It's been at the town meeting. It's been discussed. I'm in favor of incrementally increasing the sticker price and not the pay-as-you-throw program. I know that it's been brought up in the past that the tax subsidy to cover the cost of the transfer station is not fair to the certain residents in town who, whether they have private trash pickup or they manage their home trash differently. It's not fair to them that their tax money subsidizes the transfer station. But I think the same argument can be made about families whose children aren't going to the public schools. Their tax subsidies are also helping pay for the school system. So it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate that, they have to subsidize the trash, but I think as we incrementally increase the sticker price, like Mr. Cahalane said, we'll come to a neutral cost, and we can, the incremental increase, I think, will go easier with the taxpayer than a giant increase, 1 July 1st.
Chris, what's your position on?
Sure, yeah, no, it's a really tough question, and the voters have spoken, as the other speakers have said. They don't want pay-as-you-throw. I do believe that there is a silent majority out there of people who would prefer to, recycle and buy bags. I don't, or I should say I'm not convinced by the Solid Waste Committee sort of finding that a hybrid system to our waste disposal issues is not doable. I really feel as though that we should be able to give an option to people. If you want to buy a bag, and really recycle 80% of your stuff, why not give them that choice? I also appreciate, I have a mother who's senior who just will not recycle, is not part of that era, and certainly doesn't have the room and the space or the ability to recycle. So everything goes into one bag, but she only probably generates maybe 1 bag a week. So she's very willing to pay the increased sticker price. So I do feel it should be run as an enterprise system, and to the other speakers, we are close to that. It should be self-sufficient. We're close. But I really would like to ask more of a deeper question to find out why can't we, offer people a choice. And I think we might be actually surprised at what that decision is.
Sam, you have a question for John Cahalane.
Yes, John, you've served on the board for a very long time.
Yes, I have.
Some might question maybe it's time for new blood. What would you say to those concerns?
I gave it a lot of thought and consideration. My feeling is that the town has been going so well, and we do have a new manager. that I'd like to spend the next 3 years kind of wrapping up everything. So we still have a lot of things on the table. We have sewer issues. We also have the schools. So I think I could be a lot of help. And I think my history of everything that's gone on in the past also helps.
You have a question for Shane as well, I believe.
Yes, Shane, let me just find that here.
Firefighters.
Yeah, you've gotten the endorsement from Firefighters Union. You are a firefighter yourself. I think a big part of a selectman's job is at least advising the town manager on contract negotiations with certain unions. Given your endorsement and yourself as a firefighter, how would that play into negotiations?
First and foremost, to answer this question, I'm a resident of Mashpee. I've lived here for 30 some odd years, and that's where my heart is. If we're if I'm advising the town manager on negotiating contracts, then my heart and my will has to be with the town. I'm asking them for their vote to put me in a town hall. We have to make decisions on their basis. There's no secret that I'm a firefighter. I do have the endorsement of the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts. I'm meeting with the Teachers Association next week. I'm asking for their endorsement, and I'm also meeting with the AFL-CIO. I am a union employee, and I'm a union firefighter, and the one thing that means, in my honest opinion, is that I have the greatest job in the world. It's not going to affect my decision-making in town hall. You know, I wouldn't expect any of these other three gentlemen's career choices to make, to convey their decisions at town hall, So yeah, there's no secret. I'm a union firefighter. I'm proud of it. It's a noble career. It's, like I said, the best career. But as an elected official in the town hall, my goal and my responsibility is to the taxpayers, to my children who are, now taxpayers, to my elderly family that lives in the town that are taxpayers. That's the ultimate goal. Do I support public safety? Absolutely. And I think everybody here should support public safety. We pay taxes so that our homes are protected and that our loved ones are protected. We pay taxes so that I support the police department just as much as I support the fire department. I haven't received their endorsement, but I still support them because we pay taxes for them to patrol our streets and protect our families. We pay taxes to the public schools so that they can educate and help raise our children. I support the teachers the same I would support the police department, the same I would support the fire department, the same I would support the DPW.
I'm going to move on to a touchy topic, Chris. Last November, Massachusetts voters approved recreational marijuana. The town manager has suggested the tax revenues to the town from the retail sale of marijuana could result in an economic windfall for Mashpee. Assuming strict zoning such as that already in place for medical marijuana dispensaries is extended for retail marijuana and that limits are placed on the number of retail licenses allowed, what is your position on allowing the retail sale of marijuana within Mashpee?
Yeah, this is a really sticky issue, Chris, as we know. And, it's so sticky, I think, that even the state hasn't figured out where we are today. And I think we need to sort of, I think the current administration made a wise decision to wait and hold off on making any decisions because the state hasn't. I mean, we don't know exactly what it's going to be taxed at. Right now, it's supposed to be 12.5. Most other states that are selling at retail, I think it's anywhere from 30 to 50%. So there's an issue there. I think there's certainly a zoning issue that we really haven't explored fully. I am for the medical dispensaries. I actually ran into one of our taxpayers here in the town and what they're requiring them to do and how they deliver and who goes with them and so forth, as far as like almost an armored car type of delivery service, is reassuring. I do not favor at this point in time, because I don't know exactly all of the where these places would be necessarily, because I think the zoning can change. I don't know where the state's going to come out at. Today, I'm not in favor of retail sales, even though we could, make a, quote, a lot of money tax revenue by it. As I've stated before, our town fiscally is in extremely good shape. Probably one of the best towns in the state. I'm not sure we have to resort to moving down sort of that so quickly. It still needs to be, I think, sorted out. I think it needs to, be planned out. And I think we need to sort of look at where we will be and justify it so we can physically justify it to the voters of Mashpee.
Andrew, what's your position, I should say, on allowing the retail sale of marijuana?
I think wherever you come down
Say
on the
that third.
merits of legalization of retail, I think there's pretty unanimous agreement that the law that passed by ballot is a really badly and confusingly written law that made it very difficult for our board to develop a pathway in terms of the best way to ask the voters what they think. What I think is that we will, in October, place the matter before town meeting, give the voters of Mashpee the opportunity to decide for themselves under whatever revisions the legislature adopts to the law, with a little bit more clarity on our ability to regulate, our ability to provide a local tax, and some awareness of what the overall taxation of it would be. I am personally not looking to solve any real or perceived problems that people think we have on our budget by fully embracing unregulated marijuana sales in Mashpee. I don't think it's good for the community. I don't think it's the right answer. I think there are better ways to answer that question. And so while I think it's a good public policy discussion to have, and I think we'll have a robust conversation at town meeting, I don't find it to be the right thing for Mashpee under the rules as they currently exist.
John, what's your position on the retail sale of marijuana in the town?
I wish I knew exactly what it was. I think that's everyone's problem. We're talking about medical marijuana. I went through all the hearings and all the discussions and everything else with the company that is presently licensed in Mashpee, and was very impressed with them. They had a tremendous plan. Everything about them was class, and they knew what they were doing. I'd have to look at that and say, well, I'd have to think about it. But by the same token, I don't know if this law, if you say yes to one, all of a sudden every convenience store in the town might be selling it. And the last thing I want to see that. I think it comes down to me, is what the state law, when they finally come out with it, allows the town to do. If the town can be specific, I would have to consider very much so this company is already in town, that I already seem to have a lot of faith in. I might possibly think that this is a good outlet for the town, but if it comes down to that you can't be that selective, I'm against it.
Shane, where do you stand on it?
Thank you. So as far as this has been a hot topic of discussion in my household, and we've discussed it to length. I look at this issue. First and foremost, it was voted on by the voter. We have to respect the vote, the word of the voter. I applaud the current Board of Selectmen for holding off until October at the least to try and figure out how this thing's going to play out. Personally, when I look at this issue, I look at it, hopefully as an elected official, but more importantly, I look at it as the father of 4 young men. And through my profession and through my, ability to raise my children in this town, this really scares me that we're opening a Pandora's box in the town of Mashpee that we don't want to open here. I understand, I'm not comfortable that there's been enough research, that, the answers are out there. And when I look at these 2 weights and I have, hopefully an elected position and the father of 4 children, I have to put my family first and foremost. I know that there's the potential for some tax revenue. I don't know that that's the way that I would be willing to raise money.
Thank you. Thank you all. That concludes the Q&A portion. I'd like to move on to closing statements. John, to you first, please.
Thank you. Mashpee is a great place to live, work, and even play. I've been very humble and happy to be the representative of the town for so long. I think I still have an awful lot to give, and I would like to be considered for re-election on May 16th in the town of Mashpee elections. Thank you.
Shane?
Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight and giving me this opportunity. My love and strong dedication to this town goes back to the days when all we had was one school, at the time the Mashpee Middle School. I remember being bused to the Falmouth High School so I could attend high school myself. I've witnessed the town grow from having one grocery store across the street from Dick and Ellie's flea market to having a strong school system that has brought great pride to the town of Mashpee and two choices at supermarkets at this point. I've witnessed our friends of the Wampanoag tribe gain their sovereignty and make great strides for their people. With this 34-year-long connection to the people of Mashpee, many of my friends that I grew up with are now active members of the Wampanoag tribe. I've had the ability to speak with some of their members. Many of their concerns are the same concerns that I've heard from the residents of the town. I truly believe it is imperative that the town have a good, open, and most importantly, respectable relationship with our friends of the Wampanoag tribe. All 5 members of the Board of Selectmen will have both strengths and weaknesses that they can bring to the board. I understand that I'm the newcomer. I am not a politician. I'm a hardworking, middle-class father of 4 who has chosen to live my life in this great town of Mashpee. My greatest strength is my deep connections to this town and my connections to its residents. 2 of my children have attended the Mashpee Public Schools from preschool through graduation. My other 2 children are currently enrolled in the public schools. My wife was not only the Volunteer of the Year at the Mashpee Public Schools, but has dedicated tireless hours of teaching our children at the Casey Coombs School. All of these opportunities have allowed me to know many of the residents and hear their concerns. It is this deep connection and love of Mashpee that I will bring to the Board of Selectmen. I have dedicated 20 years of my life to public service. 13 of those years were in the private EMS industry, so we can have that discussion. I certainly know the business model of them. I hope to continue my public service as your elected selectman. Although this is our town, I will be your voice in the town hall so that you can raise your families, enjoy your retirements, and enjoy this great town of ours knowing that the town government is working for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Andrew, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, and thank you and everyone else for participating tonight. We're having this election at a time when it feels like, at least to me, that in politics in this country we've lost our ability to talk to one another. Government at many levels doesn't function very well. I'm proud to say that I think Mashpee stands as an example of what local government can and should be. We have a diverse member group on our Board of Selectmen, and we have found a way to share our views with one another, have respectful conversations, struggle sometimes, but come up with decisions that, more often than not, reflect a broader consensus among the board and move us in the best interest, towards the best interest of the community. I like to think that played an important role in maintaining that degree of civility in our public affairs. When I came to you 3 years ago to ask you to vote for me, I told you I'd be fiscally responsible. The 3 budgets that I've had an opportunity to be involved in on the board, we've slowed the rate of increase in the first 2 years from what had the year that had preceded it, and the budget we're bringing to you at town meeting is an actual decrease of a small amount from actual year-to-year spending. I think we've met the test of being fiscally responsible. I talked about making government responsive and open to people. In my year as chair, I've done some things that I think have made it easier for people to interact with town government. We now provide the information that our board sees as we walk through our meetings online in advance of the meeting so the public can see it. I've made myself available and will continue to do so in open hours so that people can see me. I have 3 young adults in my house a lot of the time, so I go to the grocery store a lot. And so I see a lot of people there. I return my phone calls, I return my emails, even when they're critical, even when I know somebody's got a problem with what I've done, because I'm willing to talk to people. If given the opportunity to serve you for another 3 years, what you saw from me over the last 3 years, I hope is what you can expect to see from me in the future. Honest, open discussion about difficult public policy issues that reflect a deep caring for the community and a commitment evidenced over a lifetime of public service to Mashpee and the Commonwealth for our collective well-being and protection of our resources and an enjoyment of serving the public. I ask you for your vote and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Chris, your closing statement, please.
Sure, and again, thank you to MashpeeTV, Sam, Chris, for taking the time out of your busy schedules and moderating, I think, which was a very good forum. I'm thankful for it because I think there's a lot of good things that a lot of people in this town do,
And partly, with people's busy schedules today and everything that goes forward, you know, I think we need to come up with a better way to connect with our residents. Certainly, I think around 60% of the people in the town of Mashpee are on Facebook. A lot of them tweet. You know, we're not doing that at the at town government as effectively as we should be. Certainly in Mashpee Public Schools, Patty's on the is tweeting out. The athletic department's tweeting out all the time. I think they do a superb job of letting people know the good things that are happening in Mashpee. I don't think on the town side we do as much as we need to. The state, I think, does a remarkable job. I happen to follow Charlie Baker. I think he does a great job in alerting people as to what they do, same with Marty Walsh. We need to come up with a forum, and part of one of my campaign promises was to come up with a Mashpee forum that people can start a conversation. You know, just the other day I got all kinds of messages on Facebook about all that land clearing that was happening on Great Neck Road South. What was that? What's going on? And so forth. And, you know, yes, 2 years ago, the voters approved that project to be an assisted living facility, and I think it's very good for the town to have that. But there's no one place necessarily to go. Yes, we can go, and you can go onto the website and look at the Finance Committee meeting televised, and you can do that. But it's not, in today's day and age, we need to be sending information out. We need to start the conversation. We need to ask the questions. And I think being proactive like that is where I will be as a selectman. You know, I've been on the town finance committee, as many people know, for 10 years, as I said in my opening statement. Lifelong resident. I love this town. Pompanesett Bay and Wacoit Bay are one of my favorite pieces of water. I play there. I appreciate clean water. I also feel as though, you know, I went to school down here, as I said, at Samuel G. Davis with, you know, a lot of the Mashpee residents. You know, we were all Mashpee residents. We weren't, you know, people who lived on this side of the town and people who lived on that side of the town. You know, I consider the members of the tribe just people that I went to school with, their neighbors. We need to foster that relationship. They have a tremendous amount of resources at their hands that we need to take advantage of. And I think, you know, quite honestly, they're open to that. For some reason, there's been a little bit of friction. I also feel as though that the town, you know, we need to be leading. We can't be reactionary. You know, we've known about some of these issues at hand as of late for quite some time. You know, we need to be proactive. We need to be asking the questions. We have to, you know, lead to be successful. And some of those questions are going to be difficult, but on the long term, you know, it's going to lead to a place that I grew up in Mashpee, that my kids can come back and enjoy this town as well as I did. So I want to thank everybody today. I want to thank the candidates. I wish them all good luck, and we'll see everybody May 16th. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I want to thank you all collectively, but individually. I don't think I, you know, said your names individually as many times as I should. Andrew Gottlieb, John Cahalane, Shane Clark, and Christopher Avis. Thank you all for participating tonight. That concludes Mashpee TV's 2017 Board of Selectmen Candidates Forum. Thanks again to all the candidates for participating. Please let your family and friends know they can watch replays of this forum on channels 99 and 18 right up to Election Day. And don't forget to cast your vote at the Quashnet School on Election Day, which this year is on Tuesday, May 16th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. With my colleague, Sam Houghton, I'm Chris Boyd. This is Mashpee TV. Thank you for watching.